Welcome back, guys, to another video. And today we're going to be making my Week 1 NFL picks. I'll be going game by game, analyzing, what I think will be happening, and hope you guys enjoy. So, with no further ado, let's get started. Starting off with tonight's game Cowboys Eagles, a storied rivalry. But, I mean, I think this game is going to be, I think it'll be good offenses, but I think Dallas's defense is going to be the real reason this game isn't going to be close. I just think, first of all, new defensive coordinator. You trade away your best player on the entire team, who was like the only reason why they weren't like the worst defense last year a week ago. And Philly has some continuity on defense. I think Fangio is still there. And I think this defense, well, they are going to have their hands full with Dallas's offense. They're just going to make enough plays. And I just don't see Dallas's defense being able to stop Philly. Especially like now that Parsons is gone, like their edge rushers are not the greatest. And unless they somehow miraculously are somehow able to stop Saquon, Philly's just going to be able to air it out. And I see this as a pretty easy win for the Eagles. Even though, week one, there's always, learning curve teams, now playing their starters. But I think Philly gets the win pretty easily. Moving on to tomorrow's game in Brazil, Chiefs and Chargers, neutral site. No Rasheed Rice for Kansas City. So, but Hollywood Brown is going to be healthy, at least this year for the beginning of the year, unlike he was last year. Xavier Worthy, I think, should take a step. No Rashawn Slater, I think will be a problem for the Chargers. And as much as when I want to go with LA, I want to go with Jim Harbaugh getting, an upset win. It's just you gotta trust in the Chiefs, at least, because they always play well early in the season. We know they play well all throughout, but like they always start off the season really, really well because they always play their starters in the preseason, making sure these guys are playing. And I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to go down to the wire, but I've got KC edging out the Chargers and win this game. Moving on to the Sunday 1 o'clock slate. Starting off Cardinals at Saints. An interesting game. New Orleans, new offensive coordinator Spencer Rattler is going to be the starter. New defensive coordinator Brandon Staley. What is this team going to look like with, no Dennis Allen, no, like this team is going to feel like a whole different team than it has the past couple of years because Dennis Allen, the Saints have kept a lot of the guys from Sean Payton's Saints teams. But given the Cardinals, I think this defense will wreak havoc on New Orleans. I think Kyler Murray and this offense, they always start off pretty good. I think they continue that trend and get the win. Moving on, Steelers at the Jets. Elijah Vera Tucker. I don't know, he was going to get a second opinion, so I don't know if how long he's going to be out, but he most likely, well, I'm pretty sure he will be out for this game, which is a low blow for the Jets. But I'm going to pick the Jets in an upset. If you saw my video yesterday where I made my full season predictions, which I'll link at the end of this video, um, I have the Jets. I'm really, really high on them. And I'm not high on Pittsburgh. Like, this team is going to win 9, 10 games and make the wild card and lose. We know that. Um, and while this defense will play really well, I feel like I feel like they're not going to be ready for this like running game. And I feel like Justin Fields is going to be able to play well. And I think this Jets defense is going to wreak havoc on Aaron Rodgers and make him make some bad decisions, which lead to the Jets winning. Moving on, Dolphins at the Colts. Really, two teams that I feel like either team could win this game. Like, you think Miami because they're the more technically talented team, um, at least offensively. But then you're like, the Colts have a really good defense, and if Daniel Jones doesn't make any mistakes, they should win the game. Um, and I'm gonna trust Shane Steichen and this Colts team. I just think, you know, unless Miami's defensive line is like wreaking havoc on Daniel Jones and making him, play horribly, he's gonna have time to throw the ball against this horrible secondary. Jonathan Taylor, I think, will play really well. And then Indianapolis improved like that secondary, which hasn't always been the greatest. They bring in Charvarius Ward and Cam Bynum to help out that secondary, and then that defensive line with Lou Anarumo coming from Cincinnati is going to be, I think, a really good defense line. They're going to be able to get after Tua. Like, I think it comes down to who has the better offensive line, and the Colts do. And I'm going to lean with Indianapolis getting the home victory. Moving on, Bucks at Falcons, NFC South clash last year. These two games um, were pretty incredible. The one in Atlanta on Thursday night was incredible. Kirk Cousins had like 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, and somehow helped Atlanta come back to win against Tampa Bay. The other one in Tampa Bay wasn't as close, but I'm gonna trust Baker Mayfield. Yes, they do have a new offensive coordinator, and there will be some adjustments, but I feel like Baker's gonna still have this team playing well, and Todd Bowles is gonna have this defense wreaking havoc. I think Caleb McGarry will be missed by Atlanta, though I do think it will be close because I think Michael Penix makes some plays, and I think this defense will be better in year two under Raheem Morris. I'm trusting Tampa Bay. I know they're on the road, but I think they get a huge divisional victory. Moving on, Giants at the Commanders. Sneaky game. Giants bringing in new quarterbacks. Um, and this defensive line could wreak havoc on Washington. But I'm gonna trust Jaden Daniels, Dan Quinn, and this Commanders team to get it done. It will be close. I mean, last year when these two teams played, even in the second game, it was still really close. I just trust this Commanders team. I think Dan Quinn's going to have this defense playing better than it seems on paper. And I think Washington gets the home victory and, shows that, they're not gonna be a team that like is gonna fall off after one good year. Moving on to an interesting game, Panthers at Jags, both teams with new teams hoping that their young QBs take the next step and hoping their defenses are like slightly better. Like they both like Carolina was last in rushing um yards a game. Jacksonville was last in passing yards per game. So it's like both these teams hoping their defenses can be better. Um and I'm gonna trust the Panthers because it's Dave Canales year two. Actually, him and Liam Cohen, former Bucks offensive coordinators, now, so they're going up against each other. But I'm gonna trust the Panthers year two under Dave Canales. Like Derek Brown is gonna be back, which should most definitely help this um running game. And I think Jacksonville, it'll take some time to adjust to the new coordinators and the team to gel. And I think Carolina having that continuity with their head coach and defensive coordinator and the quarterback will get it done on the road. Moving on to the Bengals and the Browns, AFC North battle. And Cincinnati's been horrible in week one games. They've only won one under Zach Taylor since he took over back in 2019, and that was the year they made it to the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, Cleveland, Joe Flacco starting. What is this? What is this offense going to look like against a really bad Bengals defense? I'm going to trust Burrow and this offense to get it done. Now, he has had his struggles against Cleveland, but I just think I'm hoping, I feel like if they lose this game, then you can't really pick them to win really early games because if they lose to the Browns, who are supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league, it's kind of hard to then say they're going to win other early games in the next couple of years. Moving on to Raiders at Patriots, Pete Carroll taking on Mike Vrabel, two coaches who took a year off and then are coming back. Two teams who a lot of people are very excited, think they could be wild card potential. And I'm gonna go with the Pats. I think Drake May, year two under Josh McDaniels, plays well. I think this defense under Mike Vrabel will be one of the best. And I think it just comes down to who's the better quarterback, which I think Drake May is. And I also think Vegas's defense is worse than it was last year. So I think New England will be able to make some big plays. And I think Vegas's offense, while still, making huge plays with Genty and Myers and Bowers, and even Amari Cooper, who's back, I think the Patriots defense being better is the reason New England gets the win. Moving on to the 4 o'clock slate, Niners, Seahawks, NFC West class. San Francisco, all those injuries, a lot of guys gone in free agency. What is this team going to look like at wide receiver? Is Ricky Pearsall going to be there? Brandon Ayuk, it most definitely will not be there. So, what is this team going to look like? Meanwhile, Seattle, this defense, we know it'll be formidable. And Clint Kubiak coming over to Seattle, I think will give this offense a jolt early on, like we saw with New Orleans and how well they played. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks to get the home victory. Especially, I'm a lot higher on Seattle than I am San Fran. So I think at home, Seattle gets the victory and moves on. Then Texans, Rams, two teams with some offensive question marks. Houston's offensive question marks are, is this offensive line going to sustain a 17-game season? And if they make the playoffs, more games to protect CJ Stroud so he can air it out to Collins, Schultz, Christian Kirk. Because we know Houston's defense will be elite, but can this offensive line hold up? Meanwhile, Stafford, who we hope will be healthy for this game. I think he should be. How well is he gonna play? Is this offense gonna be clicking? I'm gonna trust Sean McVay and the Rams at home to get the win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Houston, if Stafford is struggling, is able to get some opportunities to win this game. Moving on, Tennessee at Denver. Cam Ward making his NFL debut, taking on this Broncos defense. It's a hard task. I don't see him doing it. I think Bo Nix plays well. This Broncos team, very defensive oriented. I think will be able to shut down this Tennessee offense. And I think Denver's offense is able to play well and get the win. Moving on to Lions and at the Packers, Lambeau Field, Micah Parsons now in Green Bay, Detroit without their two coordinators. What is it going to look like? But I'm trusting in the road team in Detroit. I know most people are going to probably pick the Packers and say, oh, they're going to win. But look, Jared Goff, since 2022, hasn't lost in Lambeau. Like he's 3-0 there since then. And I know Micah Parsons, um, but I think it'll take him a little bit because he hasn't practiced all off season. So it's like now practicing a week before the year starts. I feel like he's going to have to early on not be the same player. And I think Detroit, with how talented this team is, they're going to go into Green Bay, get a huge win. And what a lot of people probably think Green Bay is going to win, but I'm going to take the Lions. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, Ravens, Bills, a rematch of last year's divisional round where Mark Andrews dropped the ball. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, the two guys most people probably are going to pick to win MVP. In Buffalo, can the Bills get the win? I think they could, but I'm going to trust in the Ravens. It seems like, especially in the regular season, whenever the Ravens play a big time opponent, it seems like they always play up and play better. Meanwhile, Buffalo, at least, their defense, it seems like doesn't really play well against big time teams. And I think that'll be the reason the Ravens win. Like they always play up to competition, at least in the regular season. And Buffalo really doesn't. Like at least their defense recently hasn't really been able to play well against the top offenses. And I think the Ravens win this game. And then Vikings, Bears, NFC North clash on Monday Night Football. Yeah, a lot of people forget, but in that first meeting when the Bears were at home, which they are in this game, Caleb played well against that Brian Flores defense, almost led the Bears to an upset win. So I feel like a lot of people aren't taking that into account. And yes, Ben Johnson is going to have a new offense. And, the defense maybe will have some question marks. But I just think it comes down to who the better quarterback is, which is Caleb. And I think the Bears at home get the win. It will be close because two divisional rivals. But I think the Bears, with more continuity, because Caleb, played last year. Yes, it's a new offensive, new offensive coordinator with Ben Johnson being the head coach. I just think the Bears and Caleb played well in that first game at home. So it's not like Brian Flores made Caleb look like, a bust of a pick. Like he played well, at least in that first matchup in Chicago. And I think he's going to be able to do it. So yeah, those are my picks. Recapping, I got the Eagles over the Cowboys on tonight's game. Chiefs over the Chargers tomorrow's game. Cardinals over the Saints. Jets over the Steelers. Colts over the Dolphins. Bucks over the Falcons. Commanders over the Giants. Panthers over the Jags. Bengals over the Browns. Not Bills, Browns. Patriots over the Raiders. Seahawks over the Niners. Rams over the Texans. Broncos over the Titans. Lions over the Packers. Ravens over the Bills. And Bears over the Vikings. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Let me know down in the comments who you think will be winning these week 1 matchups. Hope you guys subscribe, hit the like button. And hope you guys have a great day and bye.